What's up, everybody? Chester ARP Church Devotional Podcast. It's hot outside. I'm recording this, but we are thankful to be able to gather together and read the Bible together this morning as we turn our attention to Ezra chapter 2. Ezra chapter 2, as we join together, we continue in our study of the book of Ezra. I'm not going to read the entirety of Ezra chapter 2. It's a long list of the exiles who return with Zerubbabel on the way to Jerusalem after Cyrus issues the decree for them to return. A lot of names in there that are very hard to pronounce, and while that may be entertaining to you to listen to me try to pronounce them, it would not be very entertaining to me to try to work my way through all of that genealogy and all those names. I'm just going to mention the first couple of verses and then the end and make a few comments. Ezra chapter 2. Now these were the people of the province who came up out of the captivity of those exiles whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried captive to Babylonia. They returned to Jerusalem and Judah, each to his own town. They came with Zerubbabel, Jeshua, Nehemiah, Seraiah, Reelaiah, Mordecai, Bilshan, Mishpar, Bigvai, Rehum, and Baanah. And so these are the people who are returning. The key names there, Zerubbabel, Jeshua. Those are the ones who are returning to the province after Cyrus has issued the decree that they can return to Jerusalem. They're returning to establish the worship of God, to establish the culture, to establish the commerce, the economic city, the geopolitical center of Israel. They're called to return to Jerusalem. Cyrus has sent them back because the God of heaven has laid a burden on his heart to build a temple for him there in Jerusalem. After working your way through all of the priests and all of those who return and all the temple servants, we pick this story back up at the end of chapter 2 with verse 64, when we read, the whole assembly together was 42,360, besides their male and female servants, of whom there were 7,337, and they had 200 male and female singers. Their horses were 736, their mules were 245, their camels were 435, and their donkeys were 6,720. These are the ones who decided to return, all total 42,360 Israelites. They add to it male and female servants, another 7,000 plus. You're looking at roughly 50,000 people from the captivity of Babylon returning to Jerusalem to reestablish the worship of God there in Jerusalem. Now, is everyone returning faithful followers of the Lord, remnants? No. The answer to that is no. We will find as you read through the book of Ezra and then into Nehemiah, that not everybody returned is faithfully devoted to accomplishing the will of God for the establishment of his kingdom and the establishment of his worship in Jerusalem. They go back for various reasons. You can imagine. Think about it in the modern world. Some people want to return home because it's home. They want to get back because of nostalgic reasons. They want to return. Maybe their life is difficult where they are, and they think if they get a fresh start, maybe they're going to have it a little bit easier, etc. And so they're returning home, returning to Jerusalem. Maybe there's excitement. They've got someone in their family or maybe their neighbors, and they're excited about returning. So these people say, you know what, we'll be just as excited and we'll return as well. And so they go back. But we do have to believe the majority of the people returning were those who wanted to reestablish the worship of God, rebuild the temple, and fulfill the call of God on their hearts. Those whom God has called, go. That was a point we made at the conclusion of the last podcast when we read the end of chapter 1. Not everybody went back, but those whom God had specifically burdened to be the ones who would go back and return to Jerusalem, build the temple, etc., they accepted the call and they went. Some 50,000 people returned to Jerusalem, and they began to establish the will of God and the worship of God there in Jerusalem. As we continue reading this chapter, we'll come to the conclusion. We notice that not only did Cyrus send them along their way, he sent them with donkeys, he sent them with camels, he sent them with other things, horses that they needed, and then we find these words here as well. Some of the heads of the families, when they came to the house of the Lord that is in Jerusalem, made freewill offerings for the house of God to erect it on its site. According to their abilities, they gave to the treasury of the work 61,000 derricks, of gold, 5,000 minas of silver, and 100 priest garments. Now the priests, the Levites, and some of the people, the singers, the gatekeepers, and the temple servants lived in their towns, and all the rest of Israel in their towns as well. So they return, and then they begin a collection. And people are so burdened about the building of the temple that they give what is necessary to the treasury to begin the process of rebuilding the temple. 61,000 derricks of gold, 5,000 minas of silver. They give silver and gold, money that would be used, currency that would be used to purchase materials that were needed, materials that would be melted down and used for plating and those kind of things were given. So the people gave what was necessary to building the temple of God. The church still works this way. So a church wants to build a new place of worship. A church wants to build a new building. The people of the church have to come forward with the resources in order to build the new facility that the church will use for the glory of God. This is a burden that they have on their hearts as a way they contribute and participate in the building of the temple, and they give sacrificially in order to make that happen. I love that. You know, one of the challenges that we have in the modern world is that we think our possessions are our possessions, and we don't want to give them. We take what we need first, and we give what is left over to God oftentimes. And what we find in the scriptures is all that we have comes from God. It already belongs to God. Every part of us belongs to God. And so we are really saying what we should say when we come to Christ is all we have is yours. We're going to use that which is yours, only what we need to survive and to make our way in this life. And then the rest is going to be returned to you because all of us is devoted unto you for your glory and for your purposes. And that's the mindset of these people who return. I believe it was E.V. Hill in Los Angeles area years ago. Prominent preacher there told his congregation that the Lord had called him to build a new building, and everybody excited. He said, I've got good news and bad news in relation to this. And what do you want to hear first? Of course, the whole congregation said, we want to hear the good news. And he said, the Lord has provided all the money necessary to build this new building. And they started shouting and praising God, and the organist started playing, and they broke out into song. And then he said, but now, after it was over, they settled down. He said, but now here's the bad news. It's still in your pockets. And I think that's a wonderful illustration of kind of exactly what we see here when these people return. They're going to need to build the temple. They've gotten a lot of what they needed from the king, from Cyrus, but they also are going to have to contribute themselves in their physical labor, but also in their financial means to build the kingdom, build the temple, and to reestablish the worship of God. So let's give sacrificially to the Lord. Let's follow their lead, and let's be involved in the work of the ministry. Take care. God bless you. I'll see you next time.